Alrighty, let's take a look at this week's painting. So when I put the background down, it was super clear, the shape. If you watch the time lapse, you can see there's a turtle shape right there. I just kind of created the outline around it and then developed it over time. And it was interesting to me because when I first looked at the image or the colors that were chosen, I was thinking, oh, it's so earthy and it reminds me of a forest, and I had seen this waterfall too, and my thinking brain, my analytical brain kicked in and said, no, 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 you can't have a turtle like here if there's going to be a waterfall and stuff there. So that was really interesting, and I had to kind of just release that and allow and just and I had to check in with myself and trust, like, yeah, it's meant to be a turtle. So this is the image that came forth. So we've got this turtle it's kind of like jumping or soaring through the, like gliding in this kind of overview of like a forest waterfall kind of area. And so when I was thinking about the different symbolism of the turtle, I found it really interesting because, yeah, a lot of, there's like creation myths around it. A lot of, like, here in America, the First Nations tribes revere the turtle as, we called North America like Turtle Island. So it's talking about Mother Earth and creation, definitely creativity and that kind of thing. And so when the Flower of Life pattern showed up too, that made sense to me, where it was out of this images. It's full of symbolism, but at the core of it is talking about like the cycles of creativity. And then that touches back to this waterfall too, where water is like life itself, or the flow of life, source and breath. And so really this image, so like I said, the intention that we went with, I did the poll, and what got the most votes were two intentions. One was life purpose, the other one was communication, or our loved ones, and non-physical. So it feels like there's insights about both of them, but also that there's a strong message from our loved ones and non-physical, from our ancestors, from our source, our guides, our angels. And so one of the messages coming through there is about this cycle of creation and life, and there's like this, I keep doing this, it's like this cyclical nature, there's flowing. And so if we look at the waterfall too as it can be a symbol of spiritual cleansing, releasing, and renewal. Some cultures see it as like impending disappointment, but like a fall, a descent. And so I kind of was hearing like there's that descent, there's that disappointment, but like rising above it. So the turtle's kind of like rising above. It's a higher perspective, and the waterfall actually can also be a symbol of that higher wisdom. Water is a symbol of emotions oftentimes. Like I find that in my artwork, it can be definitely talking about emotions. So it's like kind of taking a new perspective. That's what it felt like. It felt like the turtle was kind of out of its element in a way. So if you've been feeling like you're out of your element, you're not really. You're kind of maybe shifting into a different perspective. But back to the turtle again. So turtles have been used for divination. Like if you flip them over, their underbelly often has 13 sections representing the phases of the moon. They can represent motherhood, they can represent Gaia or Mother Earth and creation. So there's a lot of like, it feels like it's a message from our loved ones and non-physical as a sort of comfort symbol or protection too. So if you think about in terms of protection, the turtle's got the shield, it can retreat into itself. So self-defense, it can deflect assault. So if we're looking at a waterfall as, if we take it as a symbol of, descent or falling, or some sort of disappointment that then like a hard disappointment that can then become a type of wisdom. This turtle's flying up, it can see the whole path ahead. So it felt like if we call upon our loved ones in non-physical, we call upon our guides, we call upon the divine, they'll be able to kind of help us shift and show us our path from their perspective. Like it felt like I could ask my loved ones to show me how do you see my path? How do you see my life purpose? How do you see my place? And so it like shifts up and into kind of a big picture or higher self perspective, which is kind of cool. And we can ask for that. Now, the card, what I try to put like tons of words in the card, but really the core of it is about that asking. So if we want to ask our guides, we want to ask our higher self that's connected to our loved ones in non-physical and our guides and angels, we want to ask to receive their perspective. What we need to do first is slow down and get into that state of grace. The turtle is, you know, they're slow on earth, they swim gracefully in the water, but it's like about taking time and kind of relaxing into it and having that persistence and grace and perseverance. So getting into that state of peaceful movement, whether it's through, kind of felt like Qigong or Tai Chi, or even like a flowing yoga, kind of would be a good way to get the body to tell the mind and spirit to slow down, to receive, to get in that state before we ask. So the card says, I'll post it at the end, you'll be able to see, but it says slow down to soar. Those were the words that came to me. I thought that was really interesting because we often think about soaring as opposite of slowing down. But so the words that came to me were slow down to soar. And so if we want to soar, if we want to take off and live our purpose and those kinds of things, we need to slow down first. So slow down to soar. Access the divine perspective by creating peace within, and then ask to be shown your path. Take it one step at a time and be patient. Trust in the graceful, enduring cycle of creation. So it's about trusting that too. Like I think in the culture that I grew up in, as many of you probably did too, it's an individualistic, productive. We value productivity. Like those are the things that I learned. That you just go, and the more productive you are, the more worthwhile of an individual you are. And those were kind of the messages that I received. But I've learned, as many of you probably have too, that it's in we get leverage through our contemplation and our slowing down and getting into alignment first, into a state of going with the flow of our life. And I think that's where the water's at too. The water's such an interesting thing too. It goes where it wants, and I think that relating to our life purpose, you know, water will go where it wants, and I think we can go where we want. We're kind of like water. We're made up of a lot of water. We can have what we want. We can do what we want, and it's not that water doesn't come across obstacles, but if you can't go through something, go around it, and then just be aware that sometimes you'll, you know, as your path goes, just like the water moves, it'll come down a stream and it'll maybe take a descent. But that descent isn't a bad thing. It's no different than, think about the descent of spirit into a physical body, and then it goes through an area, it gets evaporated, goes up into the clouds. It's just like that cycle, right? And I think too, that's why the turtle represents our loved ones in non-physicals as it's raised up into a different state. We don't see turtles flying through the air, but we also don't fully understand the experience of our spiritual self after it leaves the physical body either. So how, you know, we don't know, maybe there are flying turtles, just not you know, so it's some of that is that unknown and that kind of thing too. So overall, it's a very positive message, um, telling us from our loved ones and non-physical that we can access, that they're there to provide us with, we could tap into their perspective. We can ask, like, hey, how does it look from up there, or wherever, you know what I mean, from the non-physical realm, from where you're seeing this. Um, and it feels like an invitation to do that. You know, when I began the painting and I asked what, you know, what messages, it was like, reach out to us. We're here to help you. We're part of creation too, you know. So we have that divine guidance from our loved ones and non-physical. We can ask them. And what's nice is, if it's someone that we've known in the physical realm, we can call them by name, you know, and they can provide us with some answers, as long as we're willing to slow down, take things step by step, go, you know, the thing is, I think, like I was saying, we get caught up in this whole productivity and all that kind of stuff, but really, we can create more momentum when we make deliberate movements through inspiration and move gracefully than we can if we're just like spinning our wheels, right? So to soar, so it makes sense really, if you think about it, to slow down to soar, because you're building momentum with every time you're in alignment with your purpose and yourself. You're taking longer steps forward than if you're like taking multiple steps forward and backwards and forward and backwards, because you're spinning out. So yeah, so slow down to soar. So this week, really just practice slowing down and shifting up, and so it's like you can see the obstacles that you're heading toward, and you can make decisions about those. You know, I think that's part of the invitation, is we don't have to see them as obstacles. So you could say like, oh, okay, I see this ahead of me. Like, you can take that in many ways. You can say, oh crap, I'm in for some disappointment, and then you're just gonna be miserable because you know, something's gonna disappoint me, and you're always looking for the disappointment. I would invite you to access this divine perspective. See the path, just like the river. There's stones in the way. The river doesn't freak out. If there's big rocks in the way, it finds a way around them, and it does that through persistence and time and those kinds of things. So you access the divine perspective by finding peace in your heart and you know, slow, graceful movement, meditation, stillness, that kind of thing. And then whatever you receive in terms of how do you live your life purpose, your path unfolds in front of you. If you see something that you think might be an obstacle or a disappointment or something, look at what it might bring you in going, and if you can't go through it, go around it. Maybe you can find another way, those kinds of things. So yeah, just keep a uplifted perspective and connect with your guides. I'll give you a kind of a little visual tour here. Oh, and the flower of life too, I wanted to just say, that's like, it felt very much like, I want to say like everything under the sun, like it's everything, the possibilities that are represented through that pattern. It's I don't really know how else to say it, but to say that it's everything. It's everything. There's every possibility, potential is represented there. And then there's some trees. And I feel like there's like willow trees and different things too. So there's heavier, like definitely an element of water. A lot of water this last couple weeks. I feel like there's been a lot of water energy. And I don't know, I'd have to check. I don't really know much about like astrology and stuff, but maybe we're in some sort of cycle. But water elements and symbols have been coming up a lot. So a lot of emotional stuff, some Possibly heading towards some, if I had to guess, for most of us, maybe not for everybody, but some spiritual cleansing again. I think we went through something and we kind of caught, like we went through some spiritual cleansing maybe in the last couple of weeks, and then we got kind of a breather from it, and we might be heading toward another releasing or renewal of that. So yeah, well, have a wonderful week ahead. Bye.